Welcome to the K.T.E Wrestling Podcast. And who did woo choose?
Well, we finally got our answer on where Charlotte's going to WrestleMania. She's going after Tiffany. So I'm super excited for that match. I kind of called it a couple weeks ago that we're going to get that match, but you just never know. WWE is so unpredictable. I think it's going to be a good, solid match.
And credit to this guy, even before Charlotte won the Rumble, that's where he thought this was going to be headed. So credit to Connor.
I didn't think she would win the Rumble. I thought that was going to be Io, to where we'd get Io, Rhea, but that's all happening next week. And then Charlotte comes back, wins the Chamber, and then bam, there you go. But I like the way they did it. I'm excited to see it. It kind of gets me on my feet, or I'm out of my seat, because Charlotte being Charlotte, and then Tiffany being one of the hottest stars right now. It's a feud that's gonna come to head.
If you're just joining us for the first time, this is our K.T.E Wrestling Podcast review of Raw, SmackDown, and any miscellaneous headlines of the weekend. We had plenty to talk about. We'll get through SmackDown and Connor's Lowdown, the Raw recap from me, and a few extra headlines like from Vengeance Day and the new WWE A&E Superstar Sunday started, LFG.
I saw something about that, and I saw that Bubba and Taker ripped a dude. So I'm kind of excited to see what that's about.
It was pretty good. We'll get into that a little bit. But if it's your first time joining us, thank you. Welcome in. Each week we do a SmackDown and Raw recap. I'm Ty. This is Kon. The K.T.E, the K and the T in it. Our third person's usually doing ECW recaps, so if that interests you, tag along. But today we're going to be getting into SmackDown and Connor's Lowdown. We already talked about the biggest headline, but the show overall and small details that you want to talk about.
Show overall wasn't bad. I thought it was pretty solid. I'm still the way they've got these chambers set up between the men and the women. You don't there's so many avenues they can go with this. You got Drew coming out, then now you add Damian Priest to this mix. It's like, Are we hinting at Damian versus Drew? Are we hinting at Damian versus somebody else? I don't know what we're going to do with this chamber match, but it was nice to see that Jacob was there. Jacob came out, and Cody was going to go fight Solo, but he stuck his arm and goes, no. Family first. Family business first. So that was kind of a cool moment to see Jacob not be a psychopath for just a second. It's like, no, hold up. I got issues first. I got to go talk to him first, because homeboy just kind of left. But by the end of the night, he sticks Tama Tonga with a thumb. So, Solo does. But so that's going to set up something with Solo and Jacob, I'm assuming, because Jacob was pretty upset about that. Mm-hmm. So, but then you also have to wonder, you have a triple threat match between Braun, Jacob, and Damian. Why is Cody coming out? Why did we have Cody come out? Why couldn't you just stay in the back? I don't know.
I think a big part of it was because the week before, Cody was attacked by Solo.
And that makes sense, but it's still one of those things. It's like, Cody, focus on the task ahead. You have a challenger coming your way at Mania after next Saturday.
You know Cody. You've watched his reign on SmackDown all those years. He can't help but get in other people's business.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what we're going to do after Mania if he wins. I'm not saying he's going to lose, but it might be time to drop that title off Cody. But that's a topic for another day. But yeah, like you said, biggest headline of SmackDown was Charlotte finally made the decision to go after Tiffany. So I'm pretty excited about that match. We're still trying to figure out what's going on with the tag division. I totally forgot we had the Los or whatever team and the Machine Guns faced on SmackDown.
That just shows you how deep that tag division is.
It really
on SmackDown.
is. I totally forgot they were even on the main roster. But so Machine Guns pulled that one out. Obviously you had R-Truth and Carmelo Hayes doing their whatever, and Truth. I wish Truth would get better. I wish they'd treat Truth better, but he's that kind of guy. And then you had LA Knight versus The Miz. Shinsuke came out, and I think I hate doing this, but are we getting a triple threat match for the U.S. title? Like, is the Miz gonna involve himself in this? Because he was kind of jawing at LA Knight, and LA Knight was calling out Shinsuke. So it's like, what's going on with all these title pictures? With all these pictures going on at Mania?
Now that disappoints me. It does, the U.S. title, because you had Shinsuke back in the background every single week, lurking around these top baby faces. And you think, oh, he could face this guy. He could face that guy. Oh, that's a feud I might like to see.
Jimmy. I would like Jimmy 100%. Like, he was sitting behind Jimmy for 2 weeks in a row. He's like, and it's like, okay, cool, give me that match.
And then he sat by McIntyre and Zayn, and he sat behind The Miz, and he's sat behind Priest. And I'm thinking, oh, all these matchups. And then he goes, I'm looking for a worthy challenger. And then LA Knight comes out, and I'm like,
it's like, do we need another LA Knight championship reign? I mean, come on, he's died. Again, that's how quick you can die in WWE. I'm not saying he's completely gone, but he's not as hot as he was there when he was going against Roman. He's now back to where he's supposed to be.
When you combine the chamber for Raw and SmackDown wrestlers, it's a bit harder to get what is a SmackDown World Title, Cody's championship. You get SmackDown guys who are having to be pushed back down to the mid card or pushed out to their own feuds. Just because you have to enter Raw guys in for that championship too, which that's nothing wrong during WrestleMania, but
no, but it's still just it makes no sense because we're supposed to be done with the transfer portal. We're supposed to be done with any sort of switching of the brands, which that's never going to happen. It seems like, but because you have Kevin that's supposed to be a SmackDown guy, he's beating the crap out of Sammy on a Raw guy, and it's like, what are we doing? Are we just an open field at this point? Like, but yeah, it's hard to tell what's going to happen with that Chamber match. We'll do predictions next week for Chamber, but
they haven't always established that the Chamber is Royal Rumble like. They've had it in bits and pieces where if you don't win the Rumble, you can win the Chamber and then go on to face them at WrestleMania. But typically that's reserved for, okay, this guy from this brand has won the Rumble. He can choose any championship. That's the beauty of the Rumble. And then usually what the follow-up is, these people from this brand now have an open championship match.
But
they take the Chamber match victory.
It's hard to do that because you never know when the Royal Rumble winner is going to announce who they're going against. Sometimes they wait till after the Chamber. Sometimes they wait during the Chamber.
Which Jay did wait until after qualifying matches had already started.
Right. So, I mean, but they had already announced qualifying matches for Raw and SmackDown. So it's like...
Right, that's what I'm saying. Jay hadn't even announced who he was going to go for.
So it just makes sense. It would make sense if Jay didn't announce it until after Elimination Chamber. So then they both could be in the ring and Jay could be like, you're not going after this guy because I've got him. Like Gunther. Like if the guy wanted to go, or CM Punk was like, I want Gunther. Jay comes out and goes, hold up. No. Like then Jay makes the decision. That's like, all right, we know who the Elimination Chamber is going after. But it's kind of okay because this just tells us the guys that are in the Elimination Chamber, we don't know who's going after Cody. It could be Cena. It could be Punk. It could be Rollins. It could be Damian Priest. It could be McIntyre. We don't know. It's not going to be Logan Paul. Forget all of you guys. Sorry, not happening. But knowing WWE, they're going to throw a swerve now, and we're going to get Logan Paul and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania.
Crown Jewel apparently did so much numbers.
Exactly.
No, I think King of the Ring. I'm sorry. Was that it?
Whatever. Yeah. It was one of those crap fest. But anyways, but yeah, so it's like there's so many avenues they could go with because I've seen so many things out there. It's Punk, Cena Rhodes, Punk, Cena Rhodes. I've seen so many avenues, but overall, I think SmackDown's a good 7. I'm not quite up to that 8 yet because, like I said, there's still a lot we have to clean up. Because again, tag division. What are we doing with tag titles on both Raw and SmackDown? Now, Raw's kind of a little different on the tag titles, which you'll talk about, but
SmackDown definitely has a roster that is more developed because even the guys that you didn't even know about, they've had storylines going on in the background for weeks.
Right.
With the Street Profits, with Pretty Deadlies, with the DIY. Every tag team in that division is interconnected right now. and to the point where you had a 3-hour show and you only had one tag team match on there, simply because they've spent a lot of focus on the tag team division on SmackDown a lot in recent weeks, so they had to make time for others to get on the show, and therefore the rest of the tag teams really didn't get much time to shine.
Right, because, like, where are the Street Profits at?
Well, they've been doing their vignettes.
Okay, but I want them
I think it's because Dawkins might be
still
hurt.
hurt.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think that might be
But
the case.
but yeah, I'm still giving it a 7. I'm still not quite over the hump yet. Maybe it'll be once we get done with Chamber, I'll get better because then we'll have that clarity of what's going on. And like and say if Cena wins, Cena's got to show up on Fridays. He can't just not show up for Mania. We had this discussion a couple weeks ago.
He is already announced for some Raw dates.
Right,
going forward.
Which I understand it's going to be Raw, but it's like Cody's on SmackDown, like
right.
Which I guess it's the road to WrestleMania. So Cena is a free agent technically, so he can do what he wants.
But if you're forcing your SmackDown champion to come to Raw to meet with Cena, or Cena's cutting his promos on Raw and Cody's on SmackDown, it's promo here, promo there, and they don't meet until the week of Mania.
Until Friday of Mania.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we haven't talked to. It's kind of like Rock Cena won. They did nothing but promos towards each other. They set this up a year in advance, which is kind of cool. Never happened, never will happen again. But then all it is Rock via satellite, or John comes out and just talks shit. It's like
they didn't always get in the ring with each other.
Right. And it's just...
But with two megastars like that, you can get away with it.
Well, right.
Not to say that Cody isn't a megastar, but he's not to the level of The Rock. It's not like that. He's not to that level. It still needs to be wrestling based. Not to say that their 2012 feud wasn't.
Right. It was definitely wrestling based, but it was still one of those, like, the once in a lifetime moments where obviously they announced it a year ahead. But I don't know. It's going to be difficult to see Cena winning, but obviously predictions will have that when we get more of the card, because I don't know if we're doing 4 matches or if we're just doing 3, because I think we may get a Cody match at Elimination Chamber, which I would be okay with, unless it's probably going to be Solo Sikoa again, but they got to give Solo his 10 minutes on screen. So
interesting developments though. With Solo.
There's so
Friday.
much going on SmackDown that like I said, there's a lot still to clean up for Mania, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Well, and they cleaned it up not in the sense that they've defined everything, but it was so messy before. Yeah. Now you have storylines all over the place, but they're storylines that make sense. Mm-hmm. They're not just let's throw something over here or let's have this random match over here. It's storylines that have been followed up and now have developed on. It's not, oh, Solo Sikoa is attacking Cody Rhodes. What reason would he have to do it? Why is he there in the first place?
Right.
Now we have a little more clear development on why he is and what he's doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we've already gotten the match 3 times. It seems like. Probably just once, but...
Well, and Solo's endorsement of Jacob hopefully means that...
we get a push for Jacob.
Yeah.
And I could see it if somehow Cody... because I don't think Cody loses at Mania. I don't think he will, but if they don't pull that trigger... If they pull the trigger of him staying champion, Jacob gets the first opportunity after.
You don't think Cody versus Jacob might be something that happens at Chamber?
I think they're going to go with Solo. I just have this feeling it's going to be Solo again because he attacked Cody. So Solo's like, I attacked him. I get the shot. Cody may come out and be like, Solo, you're on my nerves one last time. We're doing this one last time. So I don't know. It's going to be tough to say.
My thought is maybe we get Jacob versus Rhodes at Chamber.
I'd be okay with that, though.
And then Solo interferes, and that leads to a Fatu solo match at Mania.
I'd be okay with that. Or, I don't know, you have Jake. You could be flip-flop it. It could be the same way that way. Solo versus Cody and Jacob comes out and costs Solo, so Solo's mad and they go at it on SmackDown. But
So how did you feel about the main event being the main event? And I want to talk about a little bit more on the women's side of things, not the main event, because the main event was what it was. It was a fun brawl match. What did you think about that being the main event over the women's championship match?
you're talking about Triple Threat being the main event, right?
Yeah, over the women's championship. Because obviously the reason why you do it is because the women's championship match had a phony ending. But I don't even like that fact. I know they're probably saving that women's title match for something later on, but I hate the fact that they promoted it knowing full well that they were going to undercut it by having Charlotte announce her title bid.
They could have ended it off with the women's match and then Charlotte doing what she did and then kind of pulling up the producers by and then whatever, ending the show off that way.
With her WrestleMania choice.
Right. But I think I hate doing this, but I think the men's match was a bigger deal because it was three guys who two of them already have a history with each other, and then you have Damian trying to get his way back into the world title picture because he kind of got screwed out of his world heavyweight title by Finn. So it's just I think I'm okay with that decision because. Yeah, it ended in a DQ and Charlotte did what she did, but I think that men's triple threat is a bigger deal at the moment because we're trying to figure out what kind of this puts us in an avenue. Who does Cody go against? Who wins the chamber? Who does Cody face? So I mean,
And that's your top championship.
right. And I'm not trying to dog the women because you had Chelsea get beat. Why one? I'm sorry. Why are we putting our mid card champions in qualifying matches? Why are we putting Chelsea versus Naomi in a qualifying match? Why are we putting Valkyria versus Bayley in a qualifying match? They are champions. You don't get to go into the chamber if you're a champion. I'm sorry. If you're a tag champion and you're kind of okay, maybe. But like if it was one member DIY versus Damien, we obviously know Damien would win. But you don't put your IC and your US champion in the chamber match. You just don't, unless you're having a chamber match for those titles. I don't see a point of putting them in qualifying matches.
Well, the only way to do it correctly, and they've done this in the past, is if you have them win their qualifying matches, and then the person who pins them in the chamber then gets a title match afterwards. That's way to build a feud for Mania.
Which makes sense, but those matches, those two titles aren't getting defended on Mania.
No. You don't think so?
No. The Valkyrie, no. They're already putting Valkyrie and Dakota on Monday, so is it Monday? I think it's Monday.
It's next Monday. Yeah.
So it's just why are we doing those qualifying matches? And then again, why do we still have the women tag titles? If you're already putting Bianca and Naomi in there, why do we even have these titles? Just split them up, throw the tag titles away, put them back in their respective spots. Because I got crap for it on Facebook. Bianca and Naomi are not main event stars. This is my personal. Again, I got crap for it on Facebook. So
rightfully so.
No, not rightfully so. She is overhyped, just like Carmelo Hayes was.
Okay, those are two different people.
Not even
Carmelo Hayes is at best an NXT champion right now, and he's been a scrub on the main roster. Bianca is one of your top women superstars and can draw a crowd.
For what reason?
Because she's impressive. She can do powerlifting. She's got great gymnastic skills. She's good at promos. What else do you want in a main event star?
I don't know. When you use your hair as a weapon all the time, yeah, it kind of loses value on that.
Well, I won't disagree with you on that.
So that's kind of my reasoning for it. It's like, oh, yeah, you get disqualified every single time you use a weapon. Oh, I don't know, you're smacking the crap out of somebody and whipping them. Oh, I don't know, that's a weapon in my opinion.
Just because you're tired of one aspect of their character.
No, just because I'm tired of her in general. She's getting pushed like they tried to do Roman, and it's not working.
Bianca has definitely gotten a rocket strapped to her back, but I don't think, and this is coming from a guy who used to not like her in NXT. I thought her character was very grating because they tried to make her a heel at that point, and she was so very annoying. I think she works in the position that she is right now, and that's a cocky, confident, arrogant baby face.
No, sorry, I can't get behind that. I never got behind her when she was champion. Her title reigns were boring. Just, in my opinion, they were just boring reigns.
Hmm.
But that's why I was kind of happy she lost as quick as she did at SummerSlam. So when Io cashed in on her,
Now, if we're talking about people I'd want to see as champion, no, I wouldn't want to see Bianca as champion. Not because she's not deserving. Again, I think she's a main event star. You put her against anybody, any woman on the roster. That's a match that I would want to see. That's because she makes the matches must see. I think so. But would I want to see her as champion? Would I want to see her have a long reign? No, no. I'm not invested in Bianca like that, but she is a main event draw.
that's fine. That's obviously this is my opinion, and I will stick to my opinion. But yeah, I don't see it. I never saw it when she was champion. I never saw the big draw for her. Every time she's on TV, I'm like, oh great, here we go. I just
You don't see the way the crowd reacts to her every time she shows up?
no, that's great. That's the crowd's reaction. My personal opinion is I don't think
Huh.
she's a main eventer. That's that's my opinion.
Okay.
The crowd. That's why the one best thing about being a WWE fan is we can all have our own opinions. Yeah, I'm gonna get crap for it all over the internet. I always will. It's fine. I take it with I take that to my grave. But I don't know.
Now, the second one, I think there's a little bit of an understanding, and I might get a little hate for suggesting that, but Naomi, to me, she's won a championship in the past, but that was due to the brand split. And yes, we're still in the brand split now, but to me, she proved her worth as a main event star in TNA.
Right.
And I know you didn't watch TNA at that point in time, so to understand with the knowledge of her in WWE, I think I get where you're coming from with Naomi. I
Yeah.
do.
I mean, like we've talked about mid card people going and being superstars outside WWE. Cody did it. Matt Cardona's doing it. Zack Ryder, Dolph Ziggler's doing it. Matt Riddle's even doing it. But
Yeah, yeah.
and that's saying something. Uh, but when you've always been the fun character, 'cause she was with Brodus Clay. She was never the superstar when she got in. Had she been one of the main women that come in and say, "Bet I'm doing this," maybe she would have been a main event star a lot sooner. But obviously WWE had Charlotte, and they weren't going to let Charlotte not win. Then you had Bailey, Becky, Alexa. You had all these other women that kind of took over, but I don't know. I would be okay with Naomi winning another championship, women's world championship. Uh, but
It's tough because I think Bianca is a main event star. She is. They've built her as such. She's been in big time matches against Becky Lynch, against Charlotte, against Asuka. She's a big enough star to where she can draw a crowd.
how'd that match go at SummerSlam against Becky?
Yeah, I remember how that went.
How fast was that?
And then they had the WrestleMania match, and she also faced her against Sasha Banks in the main event of WrestleMania. If that doesn't say that she's not a main eventer, I don't know what is.
I just don't see it. That's just my opinion. I just don't see the hype. But,
That's okay. Probably in a few years, we'll probably be on that same page with Tiffany.
yep.
Because I think you'll be like, she's the greatest. She plays the perfect blonde. And I'm like, I don't get
I
it.
know.
But I think that's due to the fact that she's so young right now.
Yeah, she's 20. I think she's like 25. But I think Tiffany, it'll be the same way I felt about Sammy. I loved Sammy. It's the same way I felt about Drew. I couldn't stand him for a while. Now they're kind of Drew. I like Drew's character now, but Drew did carry the COVID year. I will not disagree with that. But every week seeing Drew, I'm like, all right, come on. Come on. It's like,
I think
but
Connor just doesn't like baby faces.
no, I like the baby faces fine, but some of them just annoy the hell out of me. But
So, okay. Well, I said this, I guess, in closing thought because I didn't think we'd have that conversation. But in closing thought, I said this when Naomi came back to WWE. She will make more money. She will have more TV time. She will have more TV exposure. Maybe not TV time. She will have, but she will not be treated as big of a star as she was in TNA.
yep.
And I understand that TNA is small time. That's why even their biggest stars leave after every so often. But she was treated as the crown jewel of that knockouts division. In WWE, she is a upper mid card, lower main event, and depending on the day, will depend on when they decide to push her.
Yeah.
She had a great match against Nia Jax early in this year when Tiffany decided to cash in.
Yeah.
She had a great match. Showcases what she can do if you give her the time and opportunity. But I think part of that is because she has quite a bit of baggage from her time being just the silly glow person.
Yeah.
And that's hard to shake. That's why it took Jey Uso for so long. Not because he was a tag team guy, but because you have the gimmick that gets really popular, but it's also silly. That's why, because he's a world title contender now, 2 weeks in a row, he's been serious face Jey Uso. You have to be. You have to have that edge when you get to the world title.
Exactly. So there's my hot take on my hatred, not hatred, but my dislike for certain superstars.
Well, yeah, being the women's tag team, you think they? So, I just now I've got more questions. Now
We'll answer other questions later.
I've got more questions. Well, I guess we'll talk about that at the Elimination Chamber predictions because the questions that I have concerning those two will stem into Elimination Chamber predictions.
Sweet.
So
Let's do
we
it.
could talk a little bit about that next week. What I do want to ask, what do you think about the news of the new co-head writer of SmackDown? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw that Road Dogg's taking over or doing the co-head, and I don't know what everybody's big deal about it is. I've not heard anything bad about him, but I've also heard that he's like a big douche. I don't know.
They're mad because the last time that he was the head writer of SmackDown, the storylines weren't great, and it was also during the time and period of WWE where Vince was still in charge, and Vince is the guy. He just is. You could have any head writer that you want, but Vince is always going to look at your show, and he's going to tear up about 50% of your ideas anyway.
Yeah.
Until they're his. And this was during the time of COVID 2021, and I think maybe a small portion during 2019. I could be wrong about that 2019. But it was during the time when him and Heyman were co-heads on Raw and SmackDown as head writers. So that's where people's fear are coming from.
I don't know. I'd have to give him I'd have to watch the next show that he does and see how it looks.
So you don't think it's too much of a big deal?
I don't think so because if he's not just the head writer, if it's a thing, they have to coexist. So I mean,
right? Because I'm sure it's going to be him and Triple H head to head on writing.
Yeah, and obviously Triple H is now the guy, so Triple H can do it how he wants to do. But I don't know. I've heard good things. I've also heard kind of rough things about him. So we'll just have to see what.
Well, I know AJ Styles came to his defense on Twitter saying when you have someone like Vince who tears up quite a bit of his ideas and until they're barely his, you can only speak so far. So if Triple H is going to give Brian James, the Road Dogg, a little more leniency in his writing, yeah, maybe we might see a little bit shine through. But with Triple H having, I don't know how much of a vice grip Triple H has on creative. They haven't really been open and forthwith about those details. I don't know if he's Vince levels of these are my ideas and I've got to have them, or if he lets people have their say.
It would make sense if Triple H was though.
if he was like Vince was, where
Yeah,
it's
but
his ideas.
he at least has a group of people around him that's like, hey, like this doesn't work. I think Triple H's like, all right, you're right, it doesn't work. But I don't know. Whatever, yeah, like you said, they've not really gone into the whole the tower building block of how
The
structure.
hierarchy,
Yeah,
yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think it's going to be too awful, and even if it is, I've sat through bad SmackDown shows
we
before.
sat through when SmackDown was an afterthought.
Yeah,
Before they did SmackDown Live, so
yeah.
I totally forgot SmackDown used to exist back in the day.
Well, because in the portion of like 2013, after the world title was discontinued, because even after the brand split was done, the world title was on SmackDown, so that was still the world title show. But after the world title was discontinued, it was basically just like, well, I guess we can give Dean Ambrose a second match.
Yeah,
And so it was getting to see the main eventers a second time. So if on Raw you had the main event was Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt, on SmackDown it would be like Dean Ambrose
versus
and
Luke Harper or something.
exactly,
Just
yeah,
because to keep that storyline going,
going,
which makes
yeah.
sense. But yeah,
But they stalled. They stalled the storylines more. They never really advanced the storylines. It was more so running in place.
I saw Mark Henry say something that Charlotte should go after both championships and unify them. I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We do not need any more unification, anything. Keep the championships the way they are. You want to talk about a place that has too many titles? Go watch AEW.
Yeah, yeah.
So I am fine with WWE having the split divisions and champions being the way they are, where they're at. Now, am I okay with everything flip flopping during the draft? Yeah, sure, why not? But you keep the champions the way they are. Get rid of the women's tag champs because they're useless championships at this point. They were fun at first, but now it's like just gives Bianca and Naomi something to carry around. Like
Right.
that's
And that's what they do a lot on AEW is just to have a title on someone's shoulder. It goes, whoa, this guy's a champion.
yeah,
He must
it's
be a
like
big deal.
right, and it's like we don't need those titles anymore. Like, we don't have enough women in the division to do tag divisions. Go down to NXT. Put those titles in NXT. They had NXT Women's Championships before, but then you had Ronda Rousey and whoever unify them. It was like that makes no sense. But because then like we're gonna defend them all three shows. It's like
You know it's bad when NXT and their women's division can promote a women's tag team match with nothing on the line other than vengeance and vague stakes, and it's more important than a women's tag team championship match is on the main roster.
yeah,
That's how much care and love that NXT puts into their women's division, and how much rich character depth that each and every match has for their women's tag team division, which makes zero sense why they not only A, got rid of the titles, but B, they don't come down to NXT as often as they probably should.
Well, you've talked about it last week. When you have main event money, you ain't putting your main eventers down on NXT for any reason. So
Which is baffling to me because NXT is technically, if we're throwing it out there, by bigger standards, the network that reaches the most people. I could be wrong on that, but CW is a broadcast network.
I think it's on basic cable.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Because like when SmackDown was on Fox, they automatically have a potential for a bigger audience.
right.
Because CW is a broadcast channel, people get it for free. So literally, someone's grandma could accidentally stumble upon the CW,
Right.
because they've got their basic cable and basic TV. That's a lot harder with Netflix. Not to say that Netflix isn't the thing with the most audience, because most of the people
Monday Night Raw, yeah.
who are going to watch WWE are A, going to buy a Netflix subscription, but B, you got a lot of your new, younger people who have a Netflix subscription and might just stumble upon.
Right.
That's just how things are moving. But with
Oh,
the
yeah.
idea of, if you were to take the normal TV schedule, if Raw was still on USA, SmackDown was still on, maybe it was on USA 2, or if it was on Sci-Fi at the time, And if you have the CW is something that has the potential to reach just as much people as Netflix does. So it baffles me as to why they can't bring down the women's tag team. They bring people down to NXT all the time, like Vengeance Day this Saturday, just to talk a little bit about that. Their main event was a fatal 4-way for the women's championship,
And
Bayley was there.
Yeah.
Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, challenging for the NXT championship. That's main roster stars coming down, making NXT bigger. They're on cable TV too. It's not like they're just the NXT from an hour programming on the WWE network. That was great television. It was, but there's a lot more stakes at hand when you're on a national network.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just you take them down there one time, have them lose the titles, they never have to go back. It's like keep those titles down there, but
or if they decide to, you could have this NXT women's tag team go up and defend against main roster stars. Therefore, if they win, it makes them a bigger deal. And the main roster people can see, whoa, hey, this NXT women's tag team champions are a big deal. They just beat Raquel and Liv.
Right.
It helps your NXT stars seem like a bigger deal and get ingratiated to the main roster.
Yep.
But with that said, last week a women's tag team match was my favorite match on the show for Raw. And we have the potential for a really good match in Bianca, Naomi versus Liv and Raquel next week. So, with that said, they have the potential to do some great. But for the most part, they've not treated the title like that.
No.
With all that being said, NXT put on a great pay-per-view, PLE, whatever you want to call it, Vengeance Day on Saturday. If you got the time and you haven't seen it spoiled yet, go and watch. NXT does a great job about, and have done so for years, about putting a small amount of matches on their show, but making each storyline feel like it's been developed for months. And that's the great thing about when you only have to have a pay-per-view every other month.
Right.
You can have time to foster and build these storylines. Because you have storylines that have been going on for months and have developed and take shape and take form. So, if you have the opportunity, go watch it. I won't spoil too much of anything, but the main event was really good, being the Fatal 4-Way. The Triple Threat, you'd think it's almost impossible to make Grayson and Austin be interesting and entertaining after they've milked them for all they're worth. But they made a match, a triple threat, with them two very interesting in it. And plus, a certain someone makes her debut.
Oh.
Jordan Grace.
Wow. She showed up?
Mm-hmm. Made her NXT debut, showed up, and looked at the women's North American and NXT women's champion, looked at him, gave a little bit of a nod, as if saying, I'm coming for you.
Huh.
We might be looking at a title unification, potentially. Not unification in the sense of both titles are going to disappear, but
no, right.
in the sense of I'm holding two belts.
Which is always a bad idea.
I disagree. I don't think that's always a bad idea. I think when you have somebody who is potentially so earth-shattering and their potential is so big, or you get two people who are so close in nature that a match between them is inevitable. So, like, for instance, let's say Kevin Owens had the United States Championship and Sami Zayn had the Intercontinental Championship. Those are two guys that are always intertwined.
Right.
You have a moment to put them in a position where both of those titles are being defended against each other. That's less about the titles and more about the story between them.
Right. That's fine about the stories, but you have to look at it this way. It's hard to do. It's it's hard to do a title unification in any way. The only reason it worked once was Seth Rollins as WWE and United States Champion, because Night of Champions was a pay per view. All titles had to be defended. We don't have something like that anymore. We don't have superstars that normally wrestle two matches a night on one night. If they brought back Night of Champions, absolutely it works. You could do Kevin Owens and Sammy. One go like Sammy gets his rematch, and then I don't know, throw Drew in or throw AJ Styles in the other one. It's like then you have KO going, or say if KO wins, he has to go back to back matches. It's hard to do that now if you don't have that pay per view of all championships are defended. So it's a bad idea.
I don't think you have to have that excuse though. I don't. If you can make that excuse regardless of the pay per view, what it is. If some like for instance, I think Mania could be a great opportunity for that, or SummerSlam because you got 2 nights.
Okay, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns was WWE and Universal Champion. Why did we not get Roman defending one title each time? Why did we have to get both titles?
See, that I disagree with.
It's-
Because he should have been defending both
He
championships.
should have been. I'm not disagreeing with
Yeah.
you, but that's why unification titles are. That's why it's hard and a bad
And
idea.
When I say unification, I don't mean unification in the sense that both titles disappear.
No,
I
right.
mean somebody holding 2 belts.
Right,
That can work.
No, it can't though.
Yes, it can.
No, it cannot.
Yes.
I just brought up Roman Reigns. It does not work.
That's one example over the 60-plus years that WWE has been in existence.
Doesn't work. It does not work because you can't. You don't have the superstars because WWE has had a hard time doing it. They tried it with Seth. It worked because Seth had 2 challengers. It doesn't work nowadays because okay, you've got multiple competitors, but you can't tell me Jordan Grace is going to go defend this night and defend both titles at the same time. What if they're both challenged? Like, no, we're both doing it this night. You can't do that. Jordan Grace isn't going to go out and put on a 45-minute match for 2 titles. I don't see it happening.
No. You could have her defend them separately.
Okay.
It showcases the storyline of Jordan Grace in this instance is so powerful, so strong, so much of a devastating force that she can have 2 championships and defend them on the same night, no problem.
I think it's hard to do. In my personal opinion, it's hard to do.
Well, you can't do it for long,
right?
It's there for the moment. For instance, Becky Lynch winning both titles at WrestleMania. I think the circumstance that we got to it didn't need to happen,
right?
To where both titles were on the line.
No.
But once both titles were on the line, that made for an epic moment of her lifting both titles as the first woman to ever main event WrestleMania.
Right.
That's a big moment. Now, more can be said about how she lost the titles. That's fine. That didn't go so well.
Yeah.
But
it's just
when you have a superstar on the level of Becky Lynch at that point, of her popularity, having her hold both titles can put her on a new extra level.
It's just hard to pull off.
And I'm not disagreeing with you.
And that's why I think it's a bad idea, because it's just hard to pull it off nowadays. I kind of understand the concept of what you're saying, but it's all, like I said, it's just hard to pull it off.
And it doesn't happen very often.
Right.
For instance, the last time it happened was 3 years ago. I know we could kind of consider what happened at the Royal Rumble a title unification match, but it's not really, because the Winged Eagle wasn't a sanctioned championship.
Yeah. It was just Kevin carrying around like it should still be a championship, because it should be.
But at this point, you look at it, and it's every 3 to 4 years. That's not very, very often. You look at 2015, 2019, 2022, and we don't have anything yet, but in this hypothetical 2025. That's 4 times over the last 10 years. Oh, well, 2013, I guess, is another one with Cena and Orton, I guess.
It's hard to do any unification nowadays, and I don't understand the point of doing it, but WWE's gonna do it, and if Jordan Grace becomes that, that's cool. I think she's popular enough to do it. I mean, she's built enough to do it, but it's just super hard to do. Trying to defend 2 titles, because then the storylines kind of get mixed up. Because okay, she wins both championships. Yeah, you've got whoever just won the women's title, Valkyria, or
Stephanie Vaquer.
yeah, she just won that. She's gonna go after that, but like, so Jordan Grace is gonna get beat up by all these women, and it's like, or try to get beat up by all these women because she's jacked, but it's hard to say which title. Obviously, we know which title they're gonna put her on, but it's hard to do that because she's gonna attack her because of this title. But what if she wants the other one? It's like it's just hard to do.
You're not wrong, and I think the points that you're bringing up aren't awful. It's a specified scenario, I think. If the storyline calls for it, or if the superstar calls for it, I think are the only unique circumstances that you can do it. If the storyline, for instance, they've put themselves into where Stephanie and Julia are both champions, and they've been intertwined ever since they've debuted. Which, yeah, I'm informing everyone about NXT because I don't think not everyone watches that one in comparison to the main roster stuff. But ever since they've debuted, Stephanie and Julia have been intertwined together, and now that they're both champions, that feels like a feud that's inevitable. And if my thought is if they're both still champions, and that's a match that we're eventually heading to, I think both titles can be on the line. It makes for an epic moment. Two of WWE's biggest signees over the last year coming together, title versus title match. And there's not even a point to where, at this point, whoever wins, whether if Jordan Grace gets put in the mix and it's a triple threat, they win and they immediately vacate the other title. That can be done too, because NXT did that in 2020. Keith Lee beat...
Well, that also raises another problem. What's the point of that?
What, vacating the title?
What's the point of that? What's the point of winning it and be like, you know what? I don't want
the other one. Yeah,
that makes no sense.
I don't like that personally. I would like them to defend it. I would, but you could also go that route if you wanted to. If you really don't want to cross the storylines, you could have them just immediately vacate the other one. But I'm with you there. What would be the point? Have the title defense if you're gonna go all the route of having a unification.
Yeah.
Defend the other title. Be the
champion. Be two champions at once.
Yeah. But I don't think that's something you can go on for any longer than a month, a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
NXT Vengeance Day. Watch it if you haven't. Those are theories for another day. I will find a scenario in which title unifications can work. Because that brings me a question to you. If we're talking about title for unifications, for instance, the Divas and Women's Championship coming together and being unified, does that work if you have two titles and you need to merge them into one to consolidate the division? Does that work to you too?
Well, yeah, because if you're trying to just have one... Okay, so if you're trying to have one title, why would you... Okay. It's hard to say because if you're trying to have just one championship, that defines the roster and the division of the women, it makes sense to have one championship. They have introduced more women's championships in the last 5 years than they've ever done in the entire existence of WWE. We've always had a one champion.
Mm-hmm.
Since 2017, we've had two women's champions. 2019, we got tag champions. Now, 2025, 2024, we get U.S. and Intercontinental champions. If you're going to go the one title route, go the one title route. Just make one world champion for the women. They have to go to each roster, but that's why I'm fine with the amount of championships they have on both rosters, because then you've got so many avenues for different storylines for the U.S. champion, the Intercontinental champion, the women's champion, the women's world champions. Mm-hmm. So, but it worked. It worked for Chris Jericho. because they got rid of the big gold title and brought out the undisputed title. So it worked for them. Uh, it kind of worked for Randy.
So you think if they're going to have a title of unification, it just needs to be amalgamized into one title?
Yes.
You don't think nobody as a double champion could ever work?
It's hard. They did it with Becky. They did it the right way with Becky. They tried to do it with Roman, and then they just ultimately, like, you know what? Smush them together.
Now, what if you get into an instance like in the Independents where guys go to different promotions and they win different titles? Is that a little bit of a different story because they're in separate brands?
Kind of, because they're going from New Japan to Ring of Honor to AEW to TNA. They're going to all these brands. Kenny Omega won 5 world championships. Had them all draped around. Went to different shows.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of fun. But
as far as somebody winning all the titles in a given brand, you're not always for because the storylines get crossed.
yeah, it worked with it worked with Seth because okay, he had 2 championships, but they had a pay-per-view coming up in Night of Champions. Every title had to be defended.
It's funny, he's done it twice.
Yeah.
With Cena in 2015 and then 2019 with Braun Strowman
As tag champion, yep.
and world champion.
Yeah, I mean, it works to an extent, but like tag teams are different because John Cena and Shawn Michaels tag champions and Cena was world champ.
So you think somebody can be world champ and tag team champ? No problem.
Yes.
But somebody can't be world champion and mid-card champion?
Yes. Because you have the tag division is different than the singles. So obviously it's different. But you can have, again, we'll take John Cena. John Cena and Shawn Michaels are tag champs. Cena's still WWE champ. Cena did the double champ thing like 5 times in his career. Between that and with Miz did it with the United States, but Miz never defended the United States title. He always defended the tag title. So it takes away value of one championship and focuses on the other. But
understood. Yeah. I think that's probably a conversation that definitely needed to be had because that's a conversation that if we come into a unification match anytime in the near future, that's a conversation that we can spend less time on in the future.
Yep.
We've had a lot to talk about today. I didn't think that we'd...
I didn't either.
No.
I was so far so good.
So going forward towards the weekend, LFG, I won't spend too much time talking about it, but they've promoted it really heavily on the main roster. So I did want to say that it's something that was on for an hour and a half. It's an interesting blend of Tough Enough and what feels like Evolve. And we're going to get Evolve later on in the year, March 1st, or March 5th. The first Wednesday of March is when it's coming. But it feels like Tough Enough in the sense of people are going through different challenges, and Evolve in the sense that it's rookies, young people,
Right.
going for those matches, trying to impress us. I give those comparisons, but it is completely a unique beast all of itself. It feels like an in-depth look as to what they do at the Performance Center, which is they go through matches, they go through promos, trying to showcase their talents and abilities. But going forward, it might look a little different because you'll have coaches who are trying to hone their specific talents. It's in a sense, it'll be like WWE's The Voice.
Oh God.
Which I know that comparison probably brings up a sense of dread, but it'll be an in-depth look on how certain coaches can coach your abilities. So if you let's say I'm the Undertaker and you're, I don't know, Connor the Crusher, let's just say that, and I'm trying to hone your ability, and the way I'm to understand it is that you can go up against another coach's star pupil and have matches to see how both of you are progressing. So not only is there stakes on the line for the coaches, but there's also stakes on the line for the competitors because the winner gets an NXT contract.
Oh, that's big.
So it takes what would be normally a documentary style of, hey, let's film what's going on at the PC, the Performance Center, about these new rookies, because you get people who have been there for 2 years, and you got somebody who was there for only a week at the PC. So it's looking at their development, but making it into a reality TV style, Tough Enough, which I enjoyed Tough Enough. I've watched every incarnation that they had, and they've gotten some good superstars from that. Whether that be The Miz, Nitro, Maven, even he's somebody who's still famous today, even despite not being in a wrestling capacity.
Right.
But people like Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose have all come from Tough Enough. Patrick Clark, the Velveteen Dream, came from there, a good talent. So it'll be interesting to see what these people can become, if anything.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to turn it on. I'm gonna have to take a look at it.
It's not essential viewing. I wouldn't say that it's essential viewing, but if you liked the aura and vibe of Tough Enough, this feels like it is a semblance of that. Plus, it'll give you an extra in-depth look into what WWE does in their Performance Center, which anyone craving for an in-depth look into WWE's inner workings, this is just a small semblance of what you'd get there. Yes, is it reality TV-ified? Yes, but it's not to the level of a Total Divas reality setup. It's more so we're taking authentic experiences and staging them a platform, not we're scripting exactly what happens.
Right.
Because as far as I'm to know, this is a legitimate competition like Tough Enough. I say that, but I don't even know if Tough Enough was scripted. They could have scripted the person that they want to win.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they can script anything. I mean,
I'd hope they'd keep it as an authentic competition because
from what I've seen, it looks like it's authentic. But
because you'd want to see who would be the best. You wouldn't want to script someone specifically just because you like them. You would want the best person to win.
right.
But it's interesting enough to take a look at. I would not say that it's essential viewing, that if you missed out on it, you'd miss out on something. But if you're a WWE-aholic like myself, it's not a bad thing to watch if you want to see the inner workings of their training division and how superstars can rise up through the ranks. It'll be pretty cool because later on they're going to be wrestling matches in the NXT arena.
Oh.
But that moves us on to Monday Night Raw. And the biggest thing coming out of Monday Night Raw, no rules, no management, unsanctioned. Elimination Chamber, we get our first non-chamber match. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, unsanctioned.
It's a really bad idea for Sammy, but
Asking for this match?
yeah. Less prediction next week.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that match next week in our predictions. But this, correct me if you say something else, but this is a stipulation that is not all too dissimilar to a no DQ or an Extreme Rules in reality. It's a no DQ stipulation of a match.
Yes.
But in storyline, it makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because Sammy's not medically cleared to compete, and Adam Pearce said, I can't give you this match sanction. You could die. Like, so he's not going to, but he's like, you could die, and you could get your ass beat all up and down the street, and the crowd, nobody can stop him. And he comes out and goes, no, I know that, and I can do it too. It's like, okay. So
it's interesting because if you look at WWE as a business and all of the matches that they produce, they can sign off and management says, okay, this is all right. Liability waivers and whatnot. If you get hurt, we'll take care of you. But unsanctioned match, it's no, I don't care about my health. I don't care about my clearance. I don't care. All I want to do is I want to have a match with this person,
Beat the crap out of them.
and I want to do everything I can to them.
Obviously, it's storyline related, but yeah, it still makes sense. I mean,
With the unsanctioned match, it's and this is what I was getting to. Unsanctioned matches over the course of their history, they feel like they are on the level of a 3 Stages of Hell and a Hell in a Cell to me. They are those nuclear options.
yep.
It's a match that doesn't happen very often, but usually when it's a storyline that has burned so bright and become so intense that it needs that ruling.
I can see it. I mean, just reminds me of Seth Rollins. I mean, that man had a bad knee, still went after Triple H. Guess what? We had an unsanctioned match at WrestleMania, so it works. Cause Sammy doesn't give a crap, so Sammy's gonna go out and fight his heart out, and God forbid anything super serious happens to him. But I mean, he asked for it.
And this is a blood feud.
Yep.
It is a blood feud. The most recent one that I remember, and there could be one that's happened since then that I don't remember, but I think of Gargano, Ciampa, NXT Takeover New Orleans. And I don't know, because I know you've petered in and out of NXT throughout the years, but I'm sure you can glean just from their time on the main roster and the storylines between them. That's a feud that is close in relationship to a Kevin Owens Zayn.
I would agree with that.
And when they did it in NXT, it was unsanctioned because Tommaso Ciampa had just come back from a potential career-ending neck injury. Neck? It might have been knee. Knee at that point.
I thought it was neck because I remember
knee, and then later on it was neck. That was the year after that was neck for him because he's had 2 major injuries. But at that point it was the knee, and he wasn't as cleared, so they did unsanctioned because Gargano wanted nothing to do except for go after this man who has ruined his life for the last year, a man who he considered his brother at that point, his tag team partner. So they had an unsanctioned match, and it was the main event of their pay-per-view. More important than even the championship.
Right. I mean, certain storylines kind of call for that, though. So,
Just like how Hell in a Cell can get pulled out as a nuclear option. And it used to be that, then it wasn't. Now it is again. We get moments like Drew McIntyre, CM Punk. That blood feud required Hell in a Cell.
right.
People like Triple H and Steve Austin, more current matches of Gargano and Adam Cole, they didn't call it that, but it's what it was 3 Stages of Hell match.
Right.
We have some outliers, like John Cena versus Ryback is not a 3 Stages of Hell match. But it's
more.
But it's matches like those that don't come out very often, that when they do, it's a big deal. Because at the end of the day, an unsanctioned match is not quite like a 3 Stages of Hell, because that is a 2 out of 3 falls match with extra stipulations. Hell in a Cell is a big, large construction cage. Unsanctioned's basically a no DQ street fight. Extreme Rules.
Beat the hell out of each other.
Throw whatever you want, title, what you want to call it. No rules, no DQ, unsanctioned, street fight, Extreme Rules. It's basically the same, but the difference is this storyline is management's not signed off, and your liability is your own. It's cool how just slapping a title on a match can make all the difference in storyline.
Yeah, I agree.
And with these two, they've gone on such a journey that this nuclear option makes so much sense for Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, it's weird they're putting it on the Chamber, but it kind of makes sense as they're both from Toronto. So,
Well, and we talked about this too. I'm glad that WWE is not afraid to put the culmination of feuds on non big
Big
shows.
pay-per-views.
And that's not to say that Elimination Chamber is not a big pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong. Not only is it on the road to WrestleMania and it's a big deal, they're having it in front of a stadium show this year, and they did last year.
Yep.
WWE's not afraid to put these type of shows in stadiums because they are a big deal, and that's how it should be. Pay-per-views, no matter when they are in the year, no matter if it's midsummer, no matter if it's in the fall, no matter if it's in January, they need to feel like big deals, and storylines should be wrapped up at these events.
Yeah.
No matter if it's a B pay-per-view, a C pay-per-view, or an A pay-per-view. And I'm glad that we don't have to drag. Hopefully, I'm saying hopefully because WWE could also pull this. Oh well, I guess we're gonna have another match at WrestleMania between these two. No, hopefully, if they decide to put this on the pay-per-view, it will just end the feud. this strand of it, because obviously we could pick it up a year from now and it'd be fine. But hopefully, we just decided to make this epic, crazy, chaotic match for February, which is unsanctioned, and then we don't have to worry about them two fighting each other, and they can go their separate ways.
Right. Knowing WWE, I could see it being pushed back to Mania too. Just they'll beat the crap out of each other on Saturday next week. One of them will lose, come out Monday or Friday and be like, no, it's not over. Like, it's just something WWE could do and something they've done many, many times before. I'm excited for it. I think it's one of the better matches on the card. I'm not saying the chamber matches aren't exciting, but I'm excited to see those two just beat the crap out of each other because Kevin's been kind of on a tear, and Sammy's kind of hinted at being on a tear by kicking two of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a fun match. I'm excited to watch that one.
Yeah, I'd hope that they would have a little bit of a break in between that match and their next match, if they do decide to continue the story, but continue it later on, because I want Kevin Owens has been on a recent run of injuring people and them being out for a long time,
Yeah.
being out for a little bit. So it would be nice if him and Sammy had this match, and let's just say Kevin Owens does win. It'd be nice for Sammy to be out for a few weeks and sell the effect of the match, or vice versa. If Zayn ends up winning, Kevin Owens to be out for a couple of weeks and not to be seen or heard of until then. It'd be nice because you have a match like this. I'd like for them to sell the effects of it, like they did with Hell in a Cell.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I'm excited for it. I'm on board with it. I think it's gonna be a bloodbath. I think somebody's gonna bleed. They both might bleed. I don't know. But
as far as other things that happened on Raw, we had our final women's elimination qualifier match, and we get somebody from NXT. Looks like maybe this is her main roster call-up.
yeah.
Either that, or it's because she's had such a good February thus far that they've decided to reward her with an effort in the chamber. But I would imagine she's in the mix with the main roster people. She's teased herself on the main roster the last few weeks. Looks like this is the point where they can finally call her up, no problem.
Yep. I would be okay with that. She did well in the Rumble. I think she'll do well in the chamber.
Yep.
I have a surprising pick that's gonna win, but
For the chamber? Okay, well, we'll get to that next week. But Roxy in ROH, Roxanne Perez, she made herself known and got herself into the chamber this past Monday on Raw. Other big things that happened, Seth Rollins won the main event of Raw, beat Finn Balor to punch his ticket to WrestleMania. And I know I give AEW gripes for doing finishers and people kicking out of it, but Finn Balor did his coup de grace and Seth Rollins kicked out of it. The only thing that I will give them credit as to why maybe that might be the case is Finn Balor's leg was hurt. So when he did the coup de grace, he didn't have the full force of the move. You look at it like that in storyline. Makes a little more sense than just, I'm going to do my finisher.
and then not.
And then
not
it doesn't
win.
matter. Yeah. and then I'm just going to beat you with a roll-up afterwards. That's what AEW does all the time. At least this has somewhat storyline reason. Am I mad that the finisher was kicked out? Only a tiny bit, but with the storyline, I get it.
It makes sense.
And plus, Seth Rollins was always going to win the Chamber.
Yeah.
Or not win the Chamber qualifying match.
Yeah. The Chamber match is very interesting this year, and I can't wait to talk about it next week because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
In that men's Chamber match. So again, you have so many different directions that we could go, but we'll discuss that next week.
Yeah, next week will be Chamber themed. Looking forward to the predictions that we've got to spend on that. All other big news on Raw, CM Punk was nowhere to be found on the show, which when he's been giving promos after promos the last few weeks, it was a little surprising to not see him on the show. I get it. He had nothing to do, but he's also kind of had nothing to do the last few weeks, and they've still put him on the show.
Well, he's always sitting there mocking Hulk Hogan, so I don't know what we're doing with that.
I think it's just CM Punk being CM Punk.
It might be, but I'm not. I hope it doesn't lead to anything.
No, it's not going to lead. Hogan's not going to have a match. They're not going to do
Ric
that.
Flair had a match last year.
No,
and
they're not going to do it.
And Homeboy still said he wants to wrestle. So guess what? I don't think they will. But Homeboy could pull the trigger and be like, "I'm gonna wrestle one more time against CM Punk."
Triple H hopefully is a little smarter.
I hope so. I sure as hell hope so. I don't know. You brought him out for Netflix premiere, so to promote his beer because everybody needs American beer.
Yeah, as far as big stuff that happened on Raw, this was kind of I'm guilty. This was kind of an episode that I just checked out and checked in for. It was a show that I kind of just went through the motions of.
Yeah.
Not to say that it was a bad show. It wasn't a bad show. There was good matches that happened, good storyline development on it. But this whole week of WWE, I think the best wrestling product that was put on was NXT.
Yeah. They normally do a better job, it seems like, than the main rosters. Because Shawn Michaels down there has done wonders for that brand.
Better job, maybe, on occasion. Now that Triple H has taken what was initially the NXT style, if we're just comparing WWE to WWE, was initially the NXT style, has made that the main roster pay-per-views more like that, where we only have 4 to 5 matches on a card, and those matches are your big matches, and you give them enough time to develop and showcase what these guys, why they're on a pay-per-view in the first place.
Yeah.
Now, does that leave out some people? Yes. For instance, Elimination Chamber is probably only going to have 4 matches itself. That leaves out Io and Rhea, a match that I personally think should be on the card in the first place.
Yeah. To have them first, and then whoever wins that match goes into the chamber after whoever wins the chamber and be like, hey, here we go. But
that's how it worked and does continue to work with NXT, where only the biggest matches make it on the show. Otherwise, you're relegated to TV, which is how, to me, when you have a pay-per-view like them, they have a pay-per-view every 2 months. I feel like that's how it should be. Your biggest storylines have the biggest stage.
Yeah.
And then your lesser storylines can be developed
TV.
on TV. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that kind of style.
Which is how the main roster has developed. And Triple H has definitely put on shows to where they haven't been on par. I remember, I think it was last year, Money in the Bank was terrible.
Yeah.
Money in the Bank was a terrible show.
Absolutely.
And NXT literally had a pay-per-view that same weekend, and it was twice the show that Money in the Bank was. They put on a show that was worthy of a pay-per-view moniker. Money in the Bank was so disappointing last year. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that NXT can, when pitted up against the main roster, can do a better show. They still have that possibility. And I remember hearing this from Corbin, even on a podcast, Baron Corbin. When he went down to NXT, they sent him down with the expectation that he was not going to succeed. But in doing so, he rebooted his character and succeeded and became a draw again in NXT. And his comment was, "That's how well the system down there works. Is you can take goofy gimmicks that would never succeed on the main roster, put them in NXT, and they can become one of NXT's hottest acts."
Right.
That's how it used to be, where these over the top, larger than life personalities would flourish in addition to the hardworking independents. Because you had people like Robert Roode, who was a great TNA star, but he came into WWE with the glorious gimmick. That's silly. That's over the top.
Right.
But you also, at the same time, had people like Tommaso Ciampa and DIY, Shinsuke Nakamura, Samoa Joe, people who are just serious and kick ass.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason why that can't still work on the main roster. That's why you have people like Jey Uso, who, yes, he's multi-layered in his tag team storyline, but he yeets a lot. He's a silly character. Pretty Deadly, they're silly characters. Grayson Waller in theory, they're silly characters, but intermixed with the tough and serious wrestlers, they can work. But this weekend overall, I would say if you're going to pay attention to anything, big news like Charlotte picking, big matches like the triple threat on SmackDown, and NXT's pay-per-view, I would say that's what's to watch. Raw, I think you could skip it.
I would agree with that. There was many times I'd watch something else. I'm like, all right, let's see where we're at. I was like, oh, nothing happening. Oh, everybody's pissed. And then I'd go watch something else. But
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And it's done. Everyone looks pissed.
yeah, it's like I agree. It wasn't unwatchable, but you don't have to watch it this week. It wasn't all that crazy. I think once the Chamber's done, we'll be better, but on both shows. But
Yeah, when your main event was Rollins versus Balor, and that's not a bad match. It's not. I think given the appropriate build, they could have done it better. I know they had a promo last week, but I was kind of like, well, we saw this not that long ago. And Finn Balor is right now. He's running out of steam.
yeah,
He's not. The reason why he was big earlier in the year is because he had a blood feud with Damian Priest. That was a storyline that was building.
mm-hmm.
But I don't believe Balor as a main eventer right now. He's main event level
Yeah,
because he's good and he's got the talent to be, but he never wins when he needs to. Therefore, I do not believe that he will win a match against a guy like Seth Rollins.
and you just had to know they were going to put Rollins in the Chamber. There was no way Finn was going to win that match.
Yeah, and when you have stuff like Penta versus Pete Dunne, I've seen this match already. And when you have something like the New Day cutting their 80th promo about y'all hate us and we're banned from the locker room and we hate Big E, it's like, okay, are we ever going to get out of Gear 1 with this feud?
No.
But if I had to give it a rating, I'd say Raw is probably a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
There was enough there to where I could sink my teeth in, and there was headline worthy. The beginning of the show, Sami Zayn, his promo, that was enough. Gunther going through the crowd, acting like Jey Uso. I liked that storyline development. That was personally my favorite thing on the show, was Gunther
Trying to be Jey Uso for a second.
Yeah. I got into that. I'm really getting into Jey Uso's plight. I like it, but everything else, average. Just an average episode of Raw. Nothing really going for it. I think what made me more excited were the main event matches on SmackDown this week and the pay-per-view that NXT put on. That's our thoughts for the week and plenty of other unsolicited topics that we dove into. From Bianca and Naomi and their main event quality, to NXT, to a little bit of the A&E Superstar. Because it was a packed weekend this weekend, we went on a little bit. longer than we would typically do for a review, but there was plenty to talk about, and there's plenty to go forward next week when we talk about the Elimination Chamber. We'll try to keep it short, sweet, to the point, but next week, predictions for the Elimination Chamber, and we're hoping to get a certain E to complete the trilogy for our predictions next week.
Yep.
It's not quite as big a show as Royal Rumble is, but when we have the big prediction weeks, we would like to try to get all three of us together, and hopefully that'll come to fruition. Stay tuned, and we'd like to know, for you, what are your biggest Elimination Chamber hopes, dreams, and predictions? If you had to, right now, add one more match to the elimination card, what do you think it would be?
I would have rather Rhea and Io been on that card, but what they'll probably do is they'll probably throw Cody on there. Defend. He doesn't even have to defend the title. Just have him on there and go against Solo. Just have him in a straight up match, no title, no nothing. Just let's end this all right now. You don't deserve the title match, but let's go again. Let's fight. So
Okay. Pose that to you. Thoughts, dreams that you have for the Elimination Chamber, maybe matches you expect to see going on there. Until then, until next time, we'll see you on the K.T.E. Wrestling Podcast.